Daniel Harper was born in the small town of Ashton, Montana. His father, a factory worker, and his mother, a school librarian, taught him the importance of integrity and resilience from a young age. Growing up in a tight-knit community, Daniel developed a strong moral compass, one that guided him throughout his life. As a teenager, Daniel stood out for his leadership skills. Whether it was rallying his baseball team after a tough loss or helping friends through challenges, he was a natural at inspiring those around him. By the time he graduated high school, he knew exactly what he wanted to do: serve in the military. Daniel enlisted in the Army and thrived under its rigorous discipline. During his third year, while stationed in Germany, he faced a life-altering moment, a hostage situation that tested his ability to remain calm under pressure. His actions saved lives, earning him a commendation and sparking a desire to pursue a career in law enforcement. When his service ended, Daniel returned to Montana and enrolled in a criminal justice program. His days were spent juggling classes and part-time work as a security guard, but it was a time of growth and discovery. It was during this chapter of his life that Daniel met Caroline, a sharp and ambitious marketing student. Caroline had a vivacious personality that drew people to her, and Daniel was no exception. The two met during a campus volunteer event and quickly formed a bond over their shared love of movies and a mutual passion for helping others. Their whirlwind romance culminated in a simple courthouse wedding shortly after their graduation. After the wedding, Daniel took a job as an emergency dispatcher while preparing to enter the police academy. Caroline, meanwhile, landed a position at a prestigious public relations firm. They settled into a modest apartment, navigating the challenges of married life with excitement and optimism. When Caroline announced her pregnancy 2 years into their marriage, Daniel was overjoyed. Their son, Adam, was born shortly after Daniel completed his academy training. 2 years later, they welcomed their daughter Lily into the family. Daniel and Caroline worked hard to build a good life. Daniel advanced quickly in the police force, and Caroline's career flourished as she became a key player at her firm. Their combined success allowed them to move into a beautiful home in the suburbs. At one of Caroline's company events, Daniel first met Peter Connors, a regional manager from New York. "It's great to meet you, Daniel," Peter said, his handshake firm. "Caroline talks about you all the time." Daniel smiled politely, but couldn't shake the feeling that Peter's gaze lingered on Caroline a little too long. On the way home, Daniel casually brought up the interaction. "Peter seems close to you," he said. Caroline laughed it off. "He's just a colleague. Don't read into it." Though her explanation seemed reasonable, Daniel couldn't ignore the knot of unease forming in his chest. Over the next few years, Daniel noticed subtle changes in Caroline's behavior. She became increasingly protective of her phone and started traveling more frequently for work. At first, Daniel dismissed his concerns as paranoia. After all, Caroline had always been a dedicated wife and mother. But one day, while organizing paperwork in Caroline's office, Daniel stumbled upon a hotel receipt. It wasn't for a destination she'd mentioned in her itinerary. Instead, it was for a boutique hotel in Denver, during a time when she claimed to be attending a conference in Chicago. That evening, Daniel decided to confront Caroline. "I found this," he said, placing the receipt on the counter. Caroline glanced at it and quickly dismissed it. "Oh, that's old. Must have been a business expense I forgot to mention." "It's dated last month," Daniel replied evenly. Caroline's expression faltered for a moment before she regained her composure. "It must have been a mistake. I was definitely in Chicago." But Daniel wasn't convinced. Fueled by doubt, Daniel reached out to his friend Mike, a private investigator. "I need you to look into something for me," Daniel said, handing over Caroline's travel itinerary. A week later, Mike called with news that would shatter Daniel's world. "She's been meeting a guy named Peter Connors," Mike said, "and Daniel, it's not just one time. This has been going on for years." Mike provided photos of Caroline and Peter together, holding hands, laughing, and even kissing. But that wasn't the worst of it. "I also ran a paternity test on your kids," Mike said hesitantly. Daniel froze. "What?" "The results came back. Neither Adam nor Lily is biologically yours." Daniel sat in his truck that evening, the envelope with the DNA test results clutched in his hands. His mind raced with memories of Adam and Lily, their first steps, their school performances, the nights he stayed up with them when they were sick. All those moments that defined his role as their father now felt tainted. When Caroline returned home later that night, Daniel was waiting for her in the living room. "We need to talk," he said, his voice steady but cold. Caroline paused in the doorway, sensing the weight of his words. "What's going on?" she asked. He looked down at her hands. Daniel held up the folder of photos Mike had given him. "Who is Peter Connors?" Caroline's face paled. "Where did you get that?" "Answer the question," Daniel demanded, his voice rising. "How long have you been lying to me?" Caroline hesitated before sinking into a chair. "It's not what it looks like." Daniel's laugh was bitter. "It's exactly what it looks like. I trusted you, Caroline. I built my life with you. And this is how you repay me?" Tears streamed down Caroline's face. "I never meant for you to find out," she whispered. "But you did," Daniel said, his voice trembling with fury. "Are Adam and Lily even mine?" Caroline's silence was all the confirmation he needed. The days that followed were a blur of anger, sadness, and resolve. Daniel filed for divorce immediately, armed with the DNA test results and Mike's photos. He demanded full custody of Adam and Lily, knowing that their relationship with him was built on something far stronger than biology. The legal proceedings were grueling. Caroline tried to argue for shared custody, claiming that Daniel was overreacting. But the court, swayed by the evidence of her deception, sided with him. The judge's final ruling granted Daniel sole custody of Adam and Lily. Caroline was ordered to pay damages for paternity fraud, a rare but justified consequence of her actions. For Adam and Lily, the truth about their parentage was a difficult revelation. One evening, as Daniel helped Adam with his math homework, his son broke the silence. "Dad," Adam began, his voice quiet, "are we still a family?" Daniel set down the pencil and looked his son in the eyes. "Of course we are," he said firmly. "Nothing will ever change that." "But we're not really yours," Adam said, his voice trembling. Daniel pulled him into a hug. "You're mine in every way that matters. I've been your dad since the day you were born, and I always will be." As the months passed, Daniel focused on creating a stable and loving environment for Adam and Lily. He attended every soccer game, every school recital, and every parent-teacher conference. Despite the challenges, their bond grew stronger with each passing day. One afternoon, while picking up Lily from her friend's house, Daniel ran into Rachel, an old acquaintance from high school. She was dropping off her niece and looked up in surprise when she saw him. Daniel ran off to tell Rachel. "Daniel Harper?" she asked with a warm smile. "Rachel Davis," Daniel replied, just as surprised. "It's been years." They spent a few minutes catching up, and before they parted ways, Rachel handed him a flyer for a charity event she was organizing. "It's a fundraiser for the community center," she explained. "You should come by." Daniel attended the event more out of curiosity than anything else, but as the evening went on, he found himself drawn to Rachel's warmth and enthusiasm. They talked for hours, sharing stories about their lives and reconnecting over shared memories. At the end of the night, as Daniel helped Rachel pack up, she smiled at him. "It's good to see you again," she said. "You've been through a lot, haven't you?" Daniel nodded, her perceptiveness catching him off guard. "Yeah, but I'm getting through it." Rachel placed a reassuring hand on his arm. "You're stronger than you think, Daniel. Don't forget that." The connection between Daniel and Rachel grew stronger over the following weeks. What began as casual conversations at charity events soon turned into coffee dates and long phone calls. For the first time in years, Daniel felt like he could breathe again. Rachel brought a lightness to his life that he hadn't realized he needed. She also took a genuine interest in Adam and Lily, offering them the same warmth and kindness she showed Daniel. One Saturday, Rachel invited the three of them to join her for a hike at the nearby state park. "It'll be good to get outside," she said. "Besides, I think Lily will love the views from the top." Daniel hesitated at first, but Rachel's enthusiasm won him over. The hike turned out to be exactly what they needed. Adam raced ahead on the trail, challenging Lily to keep up, while Daniel and Rachel followed at a steady pace. "This is nice," Daniel said, glancing at Rachel. "It is," she agreed, smiling. "You've got great kids, Daniel. They're lucky to have you." Daniel felt a pang of emotion but kept his voice steady. "I'm the lucky one." At the summit, they set up a small picnic. Adam and Lily laughed as they skipped rocks across a nearby stream, their joy infectious. "You're a natural with them," Daniel said, watching Rachel interact with the kids. Rachel shrugged playfully. "They make it easy." For the first time in a long while, Daniel felt a sense of peace. As the months passed, Rachel became a steady presence in their lives. Adam, who had always been protective of his family, warmed to her quickly, often seeking her advice on everything from school projects to personal challenges. Lily, too, adored Rachel, frequently asking if she could stay for dinner or join them for family game nights. One evening, as the four of them sat around the dinner table, Lily turned to Rachel. "Do you think you'll stay with us forever?" she asked innocently. Rachel glanced at Daniel, her cheeks flushing slightly. "I hope so," she said softly. Daniel's heart swelled at the sincerity in her voice. Meanwhile, Adam was approaching his high school graduation. One evening, he sat with Daniel on the back porch, staring up at the stars. "Dad," Adam began, "I've been thinking about joining the army," he began. Daniel felt a mix of pride and worry. "That's a big decision, son. Are you sure it's what you want?" Adam nodded. "I think so. I want to serve, like you did." Daniel placed a hand on Adam's shoulder. "If that's your choice, I'll support you. Just know that, no matter what, I'm proud of you." Lily, on the other hand, was thriving academically. She had her sights set on studying veterinary medicine, inspired by her love for animals. When she received her first college acceptance letter, she burst into the living room, waving it excitedly. "Dad! Rachel! I got in!" she shouted. Daniel pulled her into a hug, his pride evident. "I knew you could do it," he said. Rachel beamed. "This calls for a celebration." "Yeah." With Adam preparing for basic training and Lily heading off to college, Daniel found himself reflecting on how much their lives had changed. The pain of Caroline's betrayal had once seemed insurmountable, but now it felt like a distant memory. One evening, as he and Rachel sat on the porch watching the sunset, Daniel took her hand. "You've changed everything," he said quietly. "For me, for the kids. I don't know where we'd be without you." Rachel smiled, her grip tightening around his. "You've built an incredible life, Daniel. I'm just lucky to be part of it." For the first time in years, Daniel felt truly whole. The years that followed brought both challenges and joy for Daniel and his family. Adam thrived in the Army, quickly earning the respect of his peers and superiors. During his first deployment overseas, he wrote letters home, each one filled with a mix of pride and longing for family. One evening, Daniel received a video call from Adam. His son's face, framed by the backdrop of a military base, lit up the screen. He had ADHD sometimes. "Hey, Dad," Adam said, grinning. "Hey, son. How's it going out there?" Adam shrugged. "It's tough, but I'm doing good. I've been thinking about home a lot." Daniel smiled. "We miss you too. Lily's got some big news for you when you're back." "Let me guess. She got into another college." Adam laughed. "You'll just have to wait and see," Daniel teased. As the call ended, Daniel sat back, a mix of pride and bittersweet emotion washing over him. Meanwhile, Lily had started her freshman year at college. Though the transition was daunting at first, she quickly found her footing, excelling in her classes and forming new friendships. She often called Daniel and Rachel to share updates, her enthusiasm shining through every word. One weekend, she surprised them by coming home unexpectedly. "Lily," Daniel exclaimed, pulling her into a hug as she walked through the door. "I missed you guys," she said, her smile wide. Rachel joined the hug, her voice filled with warmth. "The house hasn't been the same without you." Over dinner that night, Lily shared stories about her classes and new adventures, her laughter filling the room. For Daniel, moments like these were a reminder of how far they had come as a family. Rachel's presence in their lives continued to grow, and the bond between her and Daniel deepened. One evening, as they walked along the quiet streets of their neighborhood, Rachel spoke up. "Daniel," she began hesitantly, "I've been thinking about the future." Daniel turned to her, his expression soft. "What about it?" She smiled, her eyes searching his. "I think we're ready to take the next step. I'd love to officially call this home," he assured her once more. Daniel stopped walking, a slow smile spreading across his face. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" Rachel nodded. "Yes, I'm ready." Without hesitation, Daniel pulled her into an embrace. "So am I." Rachel's move into the Harper household brought new energy and warmth. She quickly became the glue that held their family together, organizing family dinners, cheering at Lily's college events, and sending care packages to Adam overseas. For Daniel, her presence was nothing short of a blessing. He often marveled at how seamlessly she had integrated into their lives, bringing love and stability where there had once been uncertainty. Years later, the family gathered in the backyard for a barbecue. Adam, now back from his deployment, was teaching his young son how to throw a football. Lily, recently engaged, sat with Rachel at the picnic table, discussing wedding plans. Daniel stood by the grill, flipping burgers and taking it all in. The laughter, the joy, the sense of togetherness. It was everything he had ever wanted. Rachel joined him, slipping her hand into his. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "Just how lucky I am," Daniel replied, his voice filled with emotion. Rachel smiled, leaning her head against his shoulder. "We all are." As the sun set on their perfect evening, Daniel felt an overwhelming sense of peace. Life had tested him in ways he never could have imagined, but it had also given him the strength to rebuild, and for that, he was eternally grateful. As the days turned into weeks, the rhythm of life in the Harper household continued to evolve. Daniel had found his footing again, balancing his role as a father and a detective with the happiness Rachel brought into his life. One evening, while Daniel was organizing old family photos, Lily joined him at the table. "What's this?" she asked, picking up a photo of her and Adam as toddlers, covered in cake from a long-ago birthday party. "Your third birthday," Daniel said with a chuckle. "You insisted on feeding Adam your cake instead of eating it yourself." Lily smiled fondly. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" Daniel looked at her, his eyes filled with pride. "We have, and I couldn't be prouder of you both." Lily hesitated, then asked, "Do you ever regret everything that happened with Mom?" Daniel paused, the question catching him off guard. "It's complicated," he admitted. "What she did hurt, more than I can say. But if none of that had happened, we wouldn't be where we are now, and where we are now feels right." Lily nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I think you're right, Dad. We're better for it." Rachel continued to strengthen her bond with Adam and Lily. During one of Adam's visits home, she organized a family dinner, inviting close friends and neighbors to celebrate his safe return. As they sat around the table sharing stories and laughter, Adam stood and raised his glass. "I just want to say thank you," he began, his voice steady but emotional. "To Dad, for always being there, and to Rachel, for making this house feel like a home again. I'm lucky to have you both." Daniel felt his chest tighten with pride. "We're lucky to have you, son." The following spring, Lily invited Rachel to join her on a college visit to discuss an internship opportunity. "Are you sure you want me to come?" Rachel asked, surprised but touched. The rue that had already developed around his face faded just enough to prove he cared about helping Ellie feel better. "Of course," Lily replied. "You've always been so supportive." The trip brought them even closer, solidifying Rachel's role as a trusted figure in Lily's life. As the years went by, Daniel's family continued to grow. Adam married a fellow service member he met during his deployment, and the two welcomed their first child, a boy named Jack. Lily, now a successful veterinarian, moved back to Montana to open her own clinic. One summer, the entire family gathered at Daniel's house for a reunion. The backyard was alive with the sounds of children playing, the sizzle of the grill, and the laughter of loved ones. Rachel stood beside Daniel, watching as Adam tossed a football to Jack, while Lily helped her niece chase a butterfly. "Look at them," Rachel said softly. "You've built something beautiful, Daniel." Daniel wrapped an arm around her shoulders, his heart full. "We've built something beautiful," he corrected. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Daniel realized just how far they had come. The pain of the past was a distant memory, replaced by the love and resilience that defined their present. For Daniel, it was more than enough. As the years unfolded, Daniel's life became a tapestry of joy and resilience. The wounds from Caroline's betrayal had healed into scars, reminders of what he had endured and overcome. The family continued to thrive, with each milestone bringing new reasons to celebrate. Adam's military career advanced quickly. He was promoted to sergeant within a few years, earning accolades for his leadership in high-stakes operations. Though his deployments took him far from home, he stayed connected through calls and letters. One summer, Adam returned for an extended leave, bringing his wife and son with him. Jack, now 3, adored his grandfather and followed Daniel around the house with boundless energy. "Grandpa, can we go fishing tomorrow?" Jack asked one evening, tugging on Daniel's sleeve. Daniel chuckled. "Of course, buddy, but you have to promise to catch the biggest fish." Jack grinned. "I'll catch the biggest one ever." The next day they spent hours by the lake, Jack proudly showing off his tiny catch, as Adam and Daniel exchanged stories about their time in the Army. Meanwhile, Lily's veterinary clinic flourished. Her dedication to her patients and their owners earned her a stellar reputation in the community. She often called Daniel to share updates about her work, her voice brimming with excitement. "Dad," she said during one such call, "guess what? We just had our biggest adoption day ever. 15 pets found new homes." "That's amazing, Lily," Daniel replied, his pride evident. "You're making a real difference out there." "Thanks," Lily said warmly, "and don't think I've forgotten about your dog. You'll get your golden retriever soon." Rachel continued to be the cornerstone of Daniel's life. Her unwavering support and love brought balance to the family. She often coordinated family gatherings, ensuring that Adam, Lily, and their families stayed connected despite their busy lives. One evening, after a particularly lively dinner with the whole family, Rachel and Daniel sat on the porch, watching the kids chase fireflies in the yard. "Hard to believe how far we've come," Daniel said, his voice tinged with wonder. Rachel nodded. "It hasn't always been easy, but it's been worth it." Daniel looked at her, gratitude and love shining in his eyes. "I couldn't have done it without you." As the years turned into decades, Daniel's legacy grew through his children and grandchildren. He became a symbol of strength and resilience for his family, a reminder that even in the face of betrayal and heartbreak, it was possible to rebuild and find joy again. Adam eventually retired from the Army, settling down in a nearby town to be closer to family. Lily expanded her clinic, opening a second location and mentoring young veterinarians. And Daniel? He spent his days surrounded by the people he loved most, teaching his grandchildren how to fish, cheering on their accomplishments, and sharing his wisdom. One day, as he sat on the porch with Rachel watching the sunset over the horizon, Daniel reflected on his journey. "Life has a funny way of working out, doesn't it?" he said, his voice soft but content. Rachel leaned her head against his shoulder. "It does, and we've lived a good one." As the sun dipped below the hills, casting the world in a golden glow, Daniel knew he had found something truly precious, a life rebuilt on love, trust, and resilience. As time went on, the Harper family continued to grow, not just in number but in the depth of their relationships. Daniel found immense joy in his role as the patriarch, providing guidance and support to his children and grandchildren whenever they needed him. Adam, now settled with his wife and 2 kids, often brought his family over for weekends. The sound of laughter filled the house as Jack, now 6, played tag with his younger sister Clara in the backyard. Daniel watched from the porch, a content smile on his face. "Dad," Adam said, joining him with 2 cups of coffee, "I don't know how you did it, raising us the way you did, especially after everything." Daniel sipped his coffee, considering the question. "It wasn't easy, son," he admitted. "But I knew one thing. No matter how hard it got, you and Lily deserved stability and love. That kept me going." Adam nodded, his admiration for his father clear. "Well, you gave us more than we could have ever asked for." Lily, now an accomplished veterinarian and advocate for animal welfare, frequently brought her fiancé Brian to family gatherings. One evening, as the family sat around the dinner table, Brian cleared his throat nervously. "It's going there," he said. "I have something I'd like to say," he began, his hands gripping the edges of his chair. Lily raised an eyebrow, smirking. "You okay there?" Brian laughed nervously. "I just wanted to thank you all for welcoming me into this family, and, Mr. Harper, I hope you know how much I respect and admire everything you've built here." Daniel, touched by Brian's sincerity, smiled warmly. "Thank you, Brian. But call me Daniel. You're part of the family now." Rachel continued to be the glue that held everyone together. She organized holidays, planned family trips, and became a trusted confidant for both Adam and Lily. Her natural warmth and humor had become a cornerstone of the Harper household. One day, while sorting through old photo albums with Daniel, Rachel paused at a picture of Adam and Lily as children, sitting on Daniel's lap. "They've always looked at you like you're their hero," she said, tracing her finger over the image. Daniel chuckled. "They've made it easy to be proud of them." Rachel leaned in, her voice soft. "And you've made it easy for them to succeed." As the years turned into decades, the family grew even closer. Adam and Lily often spoke of the lessons they had learned from Daniel: resilience, forgiveness, and the importance of love in the face of adversity. One summer, the entire family gathered for a reunion at Daniel's home. The backyard was alive with laughter as grandchildren ran through sprinklers, Rachel and Lily set the table, and Adam manned the grill with his father. Daniel stood back for a moment, taking it all in. Rachel walked over, slipping her arm through his. "What's on your mind?" Daniel smiled. "Just thinking about how lucky we are." Rachel leaned her head against his shoulder. "We've earned this, Daniel. Every bit of it." As the Harper family reunion carried on, the warmth and joy of the gathering seemed to erase any lingering shadows of the past. Daniel sat at the head of the table during dinner, watching as his grandchildren recounted their latest adventures. "Grandpa," Jack said, his voice loud enough to command the room's attention, "when are you going to teach me to fix cars like you promised?" Daniel chuckled, ruffling the boy's hair. "Next time you visit, buddy, we'll get under the hood together and I'll show you everything I know." Jack grinned. "Awesome. Can I drive it when we're done?" The table erupted in laughter, with Adam shaking his head. "Not yet, kiddo. Let's wait a few years before we give Grandpa a heart attack." Later that evening, as the sun set over the hills, Lily joined Daniel on the porch. She held 2 glasses of iced tea and handed one to her father before sitting down beside him. "Today was perfect," Lily said, her voice tinged with emotion. "I don't think I've ever seen everyone so happy." Daniel took a sip of his tea, the coolness refreshing after the long day. "It's because we've all worked hard to get here. Happiness doesn't just happen. You have to build it." Lily leaned back, her gaze drifting to the horizon. "You've taught us that better than anyone, Dad. Watching you rebuild your life after everything, it's been the greatest example of strength I've ever known." Daniel's throat tightened at her words, but he smiled. "Life gives us challenges, Lily. But it also gives us chances to start over. I'm just grateful I took them." Over the next few years, life continued to unfold in beautiful, unexpected ways. Adam, now a decorated veteran, transitioned to a civilian career, working as a mentor for young soldiers returning from active duty. He often called Daniel for advice, their bond growing stronger with each passing year. "Dad," Adam said during one such call, I've been thinking about starting a nonprofit for veterans, something that gives them the support I had when I came home. That's a great idea, son, Daniel replied. You've always had a way of connecting with people. They'll benefit from what you've learned. You think so? I know so, Daniel said, his voice full of conviction. Lily and Brian married the following spring in a ceremony held in Daniel's backyard. Rachel and Lily worked tirelessly to make the day perfect, from arranging the flowers to selecting the music. During the father-daughter dance, Lily rested her head on Daniel's shoulder, tears glistening in her eyes. You've been my rock, she said quietly. Thank you for everything. Daniel kissed the top of her head, his voice steady despite the emotion welling up inside him. You've made me proud every day of your life, Lily. Always remember that. Rachel's presence in Daniel's life remained steadfast. As the years went on, their love deepened, rooted in mutual respect and shared experiences. She was not only his partner, but also his greatest confidant and supporter. One evening, while sitting by the fire pit in the backyard, Rachel turned to Daniel. I've been thinking about something, she said, her tone playful, yet serious. What's that? Daniel asked, raising an eyebrow. Rachel smiled. We should take a trip, just the two of us, somewhere warm, with beaches, and no responsibilities for a while. Daniel laughed, the thought bringing a sense of excitement he hadn't felt in years. You know what? I think that's a great idea. The trip to Hawaii became a memory they would cherish forever. Walking along the sandy shores, hand in hand, Daniel and Rachel reflected on how far they had come. Life has been an adventure, Rachel said, gazing at the horizon. And I wouldn't change a thing, Daniel replied, his voice filled with gratitude. As the waves lapped at their feet, Daniel realized just how much he had rebuilt from the ashes of his past. Life had tested him in ways he couldn't have imagined, but it had also rewarded him with more than he ever thought possible. Upon returning from Hawaii, Daniel felt renewed. The trip had been a reminder that life, even with its hardships, could be beautiful again. Rachel's presence in his life had brought balance, and their bond felt unshakable. Back at home, life resumed its steady rhythm. Adam's nonprofit for veterans had grown quickly, gaining attention from national organizations. He often visited Daniel to brainstorm ideas or simply share updates about the program's success. Dad, Adam said during one visit, I've been asked to speak at a veterans summit next month. I'm nervous, but it's a huge opportunity. Daniel clapped his son on the shoulder. You'll do great. Just speak from the heart. They'll listen. Adam smiled. I hope so. I've got a good example to follow, after all. Rebecca gazed at him, expectantly. Yes. Lily, now settled into married life with Brian, often stopped by to visit. She brought news of her growing veterinary practice and stories of the animals she treated. One evening, as they shared dinner at the family table, Lily revealed some exciting news. Dad, Brian and I are expecting, she said, her voice trembling with joy. Daniel's eyes widened and he grinned. A grandchild? He said, moving back to the front. Lily nodded. Due in 6 months. Rachel hugged Lily tightly, her own excitement clear. That's wonderful news. Daniel sat back, his heart full. This family just keeps growing. Over the following months, Daniel prepared for the arrival of his first grandchild from Lily. He spent weekends restoring an old rocking chair that had belonged to his parents, sanding and polishing it until it gleamed. I want this to be ready for the baby, Daniel said as he worked on it one afternoon. Rachel watched from the porch, a soft smile on her face. You're going to be the best grandfather, she said. Daniel paused, looking at her. I've had good practice. When Lily gave birth to a baby girl, whom she named Clara, the entire family gathered at the hospital to celebrate. Holding the newborn in his arms, Daniel felt a wave of emotion he hadn't experienced since Adam and Lily were babies themselves. Welcome to the family, Clara, he whispered. Adam snapped a photo of the moment, later framing it with the caption, 3 generations of strength. As the years passed, Daniel continued to be the anchor of his family. His days were filled with fishing trips with his grandchildren, quiet evenings with Rachel, and occasional visits to Adam's nonprofit events or Lily's clinic openings. One summer, during a family reunion, Adam stood to give a toast. "Dad," he began, raising his glass, "you've shown us what it means to be strong, to forgive, and to love. Everything we are is because of you." The entire table raised their glasses, voices echoing in agreement. Daniel, moved beyond words, simply nodded. Rachel leaned over and whispered, "You've built something extraordinary." As the Harper family grew and thrived, Daniel found himself becoming a figure of wisdom and guidance, not only for his children, but also for his grandchildren. The lessons he had learned through hardship became the foundation for the advice he offered to the next generation. One crisp autumn afternoon, Daniel sat on the porch with Jack, Adam's now 12-year-old son. Jack had been quiet all day, his usual energy subdued. "Something on your mind, buddy?" Daniel asked, handing him a glass of lemonade. Jack hesitated before speaking. "There's this kid at school who's always picking on me." Daniel leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "That sounds tough. What's been happening?" Jack explained the situation, his frustration evident. Daniel listened carefully, his expression calm and understanding. "You know," Daniel said after a pause, "when I was your age, there was a kid who used to pick on me too. One day I stood up to him, not with my fists, but with my words. I told him I wouldn't let him treat me that way anymore. It wasn't easy, but it worked." Jack looked at his grandfather, his brow furrowed. "What if it doesn't work for me?" Daniel smiled. "Then you tell a teacher or someone you trust. Asking for help doesn't mean you're weak, it means you're smart. And you can always come to me." Jack's expression softened. "Thanks, Grandpa. I'll try." Meanwhile, Lily's daughter Clara had grown into a curious and imaginative toddler. She loved spending weekends at Daniel's house, exploring the garden and listening to his stories. "Grandpa, tell me about when you were little," Clara said one morning, climbing onto his lap. Daniel chuckled. "Well, when I was your age, I used to spend hours playing outside. We didn't have video games or tablets back then, so we made up our own fun." Clara's eyes widened. "No video games? What did you do?" Daniel grinned. "We climbed trees, built forts, and went fishing. I'll teach you how to fish someday if you want." Clara nodded enthusiastically. "I want to catch a big fish like you." Rachel continued to be the heart of the family, organizing holiday gatherings and ensuring everyone stayed connected despite their busy lives. During one Christmas dinner, she surprised Daniel with a gift that left him speechless. Inside the box was a scrapbook filled with photos, letters, and memories from their years together. "I thought it was time we documented this journey," Rachel said, her eyes shining. Daniel flipped through the pages, his hands lingering on photos of Adam and Lily as children, Rachel's first family trip with them, and snapshots of his grandchildren over the years. "This is perfect," Daniel said, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you, Rachel." The years flew by, marked by graduations, weddings, and new additions to the Harper family. Daniel found himself reflecting often on the journey that had brought him to this point. One summer evening, as he and Rachel sat on the porch watching the sunset, Daniel broke the comfortable silence. "Do you ever think about how different things could have been?" he asked. Rachel glanced at him, her expression thoughtful. "Sometimes, but then I look at everything we've built, and I wouldn't change a thing." Daniel nodded, a soft smile on his face. "Neither would I." As the sky turned shades of orange and pink, Daniel felt a profound sense of peace. Life had tested him in ways he never could have imagined, but it had also blessed him with more than he could have hoped for. And for that, he was endlessly grateful. As the Harper family continued to grow, Daniel found himself savoring the quiet moments more than ever. He had learned that life was a collection of such moments. Laughter shared around a dinner table, the warmth of a child's hug, the gentle hand of a partner in yours. On a crisp fall morning, Daniel walked through the small garden behind his house, the crunch of leaves underfoot. Clara trailed after him, holding a basket to collect the last of the season's tomatoes. "Grandpa," she said, her voice curious, "why do you like the garden so much?" Daniel paused, kneeling beside her. It reminds me that good things take time. You plant a seed, you take care of it, and if you're patient, it grows into something amazing. Clara's face lit up as she plucked a ripe tomato from the vine. Like our family? Daniel smiled, his chest swelling with pride. Exactly like our family. That evening, the Harpers gathered once again for a family dinner. Adam, Lily, and their families filled the house with laughter and conversation. Rachel moved effortlessly through the kitchen, ensuring everyone had what they needed, while Daniel sat back, taking it all in. "Dad," Adam said, raising a glass, "I think we all owe you a toast. You've been the glue that's held this family together, and everything we've built is because of you." The others joined in, their voices echoing with agreement. Daniel lifted his own glass, his voice steady and full of gratitude. "Thank you. But this family isn't about just one person, it's about all of us. Every challenge we've faced together, and that's what makes us strong." The room fell quiet for a moment, the weight of his words settling over them, before bursting into cheers and laughter. Later that night, after the house had quieted and the children had gone to bed, Daniel sat on the porch with Rachel. The stars above twinkled brightly, the cool night air wrapping around them like a gentle embrace. "I was thinking," Rachel said softly, her head resting on his shoulder, "life didn't turn out how we planned, did it?" Daniel chuckled. "No, it didn't. But you know what? I wouldn't have it any other way." Rachel smiled, her hand finding his. "Me neither." As the two of them sat together in the stillness of the night, Daniel realized that his life, despite its hardships, had turned into something extraordinary. It was a life built on resilience, love, and the unwavering bonds of family. And in that moment, Daniel Harper knew he had everything he could ever need.